Hello and welcome to Piano Shack with me, Woody. Just finished shooting a demo of this, the Roland JD-08, and it is without doubt the most annoying, frustrating, tedious and worst demo I've ever made. That leaves me then with two options. I could just throw it away, and that's like 4 hours of preparation and shooting down the drain, or I could release it to you as is and explain to you the problems and challenges that I faced, so you can see what really goes on behind the scenes. You see, not every product demo that I do goes according to plan. In fact, they rarely do, but this one was exceptionally tricky, and yes, it is the fault of the unit itself, unfortunately. So the first challenge I ran into, and I forgot to prep this, was how to do the octave shift or the octave transpose. This is only 2 octaves of mini keys on this little keyboard dock thing. There is like a shift function marked here on the control panel in tiny little letters, but it is there, but the question is how to access it. The manual refers to using a shift button that doesn't even exist. So some extensive Googling during the recording of a video is never a good thing, but this is what I had to do. Checked numerous forums that referred to another button that doesn't exist either, function. There's obviously some combination of buttons I need to press to shift the octave up and down. By default, it just changes the program. Asked ChatGPT, which is normally pretty good. That normally knows everything, but in this case it was also referring me to press buttons and menu buttons and things that just don't exist. In the end, by trial and error and from no help from the internet, I figured out you had to press the note button first here, and then you can switch the octaves up and down. Bugger off! Another problem I ran into here was that every time I started the drum machine, it would trigger Oh, this is just one of those days. Now, because I was recording for so long during this botched demo, the camera batteries have died, so we've got that plugged into the wall right now. What was I saying? Yes, whenever I started the drum machine, I had them synced up with MIDI, which seemed like a good idea to synchronize LFOs and arpeggios and stuff. But every time I started the drum machine, it would start this awful pattern sequence in the background that was just playing like a drone on a low C note. So let's disconnect the MIDI. The next thing is that halfway through the demonstration, I noticed that some of the patches seem to be drifting in and out of tune, or just being slightly out of tune, and it just got worse and worse towards the back end of my demonstrations. In fact, what started happening after a while is that I would select a patch and it would play perfectly in the beginning, but then after about 10 seconds it would start gradually drifting out of tune, like some very slow LFO was sweeping up and down and altering the pitch. And then after about 30 seconds, the patch was kind of unusable, but in a way, quite a cool effect as well. But it made basically everything totally unplayable. And that was happening with all of the settings and all of the patches. So once again, panic situation, the cameras are rolling, I want to get this done. I'm trying to figure out what that could be here, adjusting settings and trying, in the end as a last resort, to do a factory reset. Again, this means a lot of extensive Googling during the recording of the video and no information available online that was correct to tell you how to do this. Once again, lots of instructions telling me to press non-existent buttons. I also had the idea it might be the batteries that I'm using to power this. I'm using rechargeables. If they're getting low on power, maybe that could be affecting the stability of the oscillators. A bit of a long shot. This isn't analog, but I decided to try a power bank. And this is all kind of stressful. You know, during the course of recording a video, you don't want the video files to go on forever because it's just a ton of extra data and things that you need to edit. It just becomes extremely tedious during the post-processing. But what can you do? I never actually figured out how to do a factory reset, and putting in the power bank didn't seem to help. Off camera then, after I'd finished the recording, I was a little bit puzzled about this and a bit stubborn. I wanted to know what was going on, so I did mess around with this a little bit more. And what I did was push all the sliders up and down, gave them a good old wiggle. These are tiny little faders, buttons. Did that on everything. And I think when I wiggled these two down here that have something to do with the pitch, seemed to fix the problem. I did notice as well during the demos that there were random numbers kind of flashing up on the display, which leads me to think these were sending some spurious data during my performances, but giving them a good wiggle seemed to fix the issue. Oh, sorry, hiccups. Well, there you go. I will give this a second chance and then I'll be selling it as fast as I possibly can. It's just been so frustrating. The first impressions are important and this one really let me down. So I'll be selling this as soon as possible, but we will connect it up to a larger keyboard. I think you need like 61 keys to really do this justice. So before we get rid of this, I'm going to do one more sound demo for you. Perhaps it will win me over when we play some of the sounds, because it does sound very good, just incredibly frustrating. This guy is a real noob. Yes, you can see the pain that it takes me to make these videos for me. All I ask in return is that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and thank you if you already have, and I'll see you in a future video doing awful demonstrations of complicated gear. Until then, cheerio. I've left out lots of amazing presets just because I don't want this video to go on forever. Why did he upload this rubbish?